So what we're going to be doing today is finding sine, cosine, and tangent of special angles. So there are 3 steps. You first have to find the angle in the unit circle, then use the reference angle to find the value, and then figure out if it's positive or negative depending on the quadrant. So we're going to first find sine, cosine, and tangent of 330. So what you do is you go to your unit circle and you find the 330. So 330 is right here. And I look at the reference angle of the 330. It is 30. So that means that sine of 330 would be 1/2, cosine of 330 would be square root of 3 over 2, and tangent would be square root of 3 over 3. But then you have to figure out if it's positive or negative. So 330 is in the 4th quadrant, and the only thing positive is cosine in the 4th quadrant. So that means that the sine and the tangent will be negative, and the cosine will stay positive. So that means that sine of 330 would be 1/2. Cosine is square root of 3 over 2, and tangent is square root of 3 over 3. The only one positive is the cosine, so that means that the sine and tangent are negative. So to try a few more, sine of 120. So I find 120. It's right here. The reference angle is 60. I go over to 60. The sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. 120 is in the 2nd quadrant. Sine is positive in that quadrant, and so it'll be a positive answer. So it is positive square root of 3 over 2. So cosine of 5/4 pi. So 5/4 pi is, or 5 pi over 4 is right here. The reference angle is 45. And so go over to 45, and the cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. 5 pi over 4 is in the 3rd quadrant, and the only thing positive there is tangent, so that means since it is cosine, it will be a negative answer. So the value was square root of 2 over 2. Because of the quadrant it was in, it's a negative. Sine of 210. So 210 is right here. The reference angle is 30, so sine of 30 is 1/2. 210 is in the 3rd quadrant, and the only thing positive is tangent, so that means this will be a negative 1/2. Last one in this section, tangent of 60. So 60 is right here. Its reference angle is 60 because it's already an acute angle. So tangent of 60 is square root of 3 over 3, or just square root of 3. And in this quadrant, everything's positive, so it's positive square root of 3. All right, now whenever an angle lands on an axis, the answer will be either 0, 1, -1, or undefined. And so I will be giving you this chart on the test. All you have to know is how to read it. And so sine of 180. So I look in the sine column, and then I find 180. So sine of 180 is right here. The answer is 0. Then cosine of 90. I find the cosine column. I go down to 90. It is also 0. Now we're going to go backwards. So we're going to find all the angles, and I'm going to give you the value. So we're trying to figure out what angles would make sine equal 1/2. So there will be 4 angles, 2 positives and 2 negatives. So I first figure out in these values over here which one would equal 1/2. So I'm looking for where sine equals 1/2. So sine equals 1/2 right here at 30 degrees. So 30 degrees is the first angle. Then what you have to do is see what other quadrant would give you a positive answer. So sine is positive in this quadrant as well. And so the reference angle is the 30 degrees, so you just find the angle that has a reference angle of 30 degrees in that quadrant. So right here, this one does, so the other answer is 150. So now you have to find negative angles. So what you're trying to do is figure out what negative angle could get you all the way back to 150 and all the way back to 30. And so an easy way to do that is you just take 360 degrees and subtract the angle. So 360 minus the first angle, 30, is 330. So the first negative angle is negative 330. Then you do 360 minus the second angle, 150. 360 minus 150 is 210, and you just put a negative out front. So those are the 4 angles. So the next one, tangent of whatever angle equals 1. So I figure out what equals 1. So tangent of 45 equals 1. So that is the first angle. So then tangent is also positive in the 3rd quadrant. And so I use the 45 degree and the one that has a 45-degree reference angle is 225, so that's the other angle. So then to get my negative angles, I just take 360 and I subtract 45, and so that would get negative 315. And then I take 360 minus 225, and that gets me 135. Next one, cosine of negative 1/2 square root of 2 over, or square root of 2. So how you would rewrite that is it just sometimes scoots the square root of 2 off. So it's the same thing as negative square root of 2 over 2. So this is the first time we have a negative angle. So the first thing you need to do is figure out the reference angle. So cosine of 45 equals square root of 2 over 2. But we aren't going to write down 45 because it is negative square root of 2 over 2. And so you figure out the other quadrants where cosine is negative. So cosine is negative in these two quadrants, second and third. It's positive in these two. And so my answers are going to be in the second and third. So I find, since the reference angle is 45, I find the reference angles that have 45. So right here at 135 and right here at 225. So those are my two positive angles. And then to find my negative angles, I again take 360 and I subtract those. So 360 minus 135 is 225. And 360 minus 225 is 135. So the next one says arc cosine 1/2. That is the same thing as what I wrote above it. Cosine of an angle equals 1/2. It's just a different type of notation. So cosine equals 1/2 right here at 60 degrees. So that's my first angle. Cosine is also positive in this quadrant. And so the one that has 60 degree reference angle is right here at 300. So that's my two positive angles. So to find my negatives, I do 360 minus 60, which is 300. And 360 minus 300 is 60. So the next one is also a different type of notation. Sine with a little -1 just means sine of an angle equals negative 1/2. So again, another -1. And so sine equals 1/2 right here at 30 degrees, but I am figuring out where it equals negative 1/2. So sine is negative in these two quadrants. So I'm finding the two angles that have that reference angle of 30 degrees. And so that is 210 right here and 330 right there. So then I do 360 minus 210, and I get negative 150. And I do 360 minus 330, and I get 30. The next one, I have sine equals 0.8. So 0.8 is not a value that is on your unit circle. And so if you encounter that, all you have to do is grab your calculator and make sure that you are in degree mode. And then just do second sine of 0.8. And you get 53 degrees. And so you would just write down 53 degrees. You could find the other three, but I'm not going to require that you do. That would be an acceptable answer.